Okay, so what I'm going to attempt to do here is explain what I mean when I talk about the grade, the values, and how each color has a value that it corresponds to. So I'm going to take what I usually use for Zorn palette, and this is acrylic gouache. I'm going to take this yellow. I don't need much of it. As a matter of fact, I don't need much of any of these colors. It's just to create like a swash of each of these colors. This is cerulean blue. Just a little bit there. And I have here permanent red. Okay, so just a little bit of that. And so what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of each color. See, just take a little bit of this red and this palette knife and just put it down here. Put it down there. Right? Just that's the pure color. Here you have the cerulean, and this is the cerulean. And lastly, the yellow ochre. All right. So there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to find out just how gray these colors are. Right? So we're going to have to mix a gray that matches each of these. Now, bear with me. I have not done this since college. I had a color theory course in college. And so, as a matter of fact, I have the colors right here. But I wanted to make a swash and put it right next to it. So I can look at, let's take the first one. Right? It doesn't take much, but we want to mix a gray that is as light or dark as the color that we see. And the way we do this is when we make this gray, right, we put it over the color and we squint our eye and try to decide whether this gray is as light or as dark as the color that we see. I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of each of these. And so we begin to lose this gray in the neutral gray background here. Right? So, let's see. Now if we squint our eye and put it right over the color, that may be close to that color there. Let's see. Yeah, about. Right? So, the same thing with the blue. Now, if I squint my eye, this gray that we mixed for here is much too light for this blue. So we're going to have to make that a bit darker. So we used to do this in college in my color theory class, which was a neat class. And the great thing is the instructor that I had was formerly a student of a really great and famous illustrator. This is a lot closer, maybe a tad darker. She was a student of Dean Cornwell. So, and she told the class that Dean Cornwell was so good at mixing colors. He was so good at mixing, is that he would do what I'm doing. Now that, I squint my eye, and that's a lot closer. to that. It's darker than this. You can see it against that. Now if I go right here, that's just about the same. It's just about the same. I don't think it's a little darker. Let me see. Or lighter, but it's just about the same. Maybe a little bit darker. You know, I mean, colors can have the same value. The thing that will differentiate them after that would be what's the color temperature. Okay, yeah, this is better. It's just a little darker and not that much darker, but you can, if I hold it over this, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Of course you're going to see it's darker than this. It's slightly darker than this. And so these colors, these would be the values that it corresponds to. You know, I wonder if that yellow is in fact lighter. Let me just see. This is just a guess. Yeah. Let me go even lighter on that and see how light. Okay. Whoops. That's too dark. I used to do this with acrylic, even though acrylic gouache is actually acrylic. It's a little bit, it's not as full body as actual acrylic. It's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit thinner. So you can see the difference here and definitely here. And yeah, this is even lighter than what I had here. So I think this would probably be closer to, yeah, this is a lot closer to that yellow, just lighter than what I had it. So this is what I mean when every color corresponds to a value. You know, if you added, say, black to this red, now of course that red is now darker because of the black that you added, right? So this no longer works. Just actually it does just barely. Oops, let me take out this red before I mix any of this. Okay, so but this thing would have to go a lot darker to be closer to that value. Okay, so you might not see it if I put it over here, but let me see if I put it over this color, but that's darker. If I put it over here, that is that color. Okay, so that gray is closer to that, this red and black that I mixed. And these grays are closer to these colors that I mixed here. So that is how different colors have value. So if you looked at a painting, and we're going to do that in a minute, if you look at a painting and you would reduce it to black and white, you would see its values. And the thing is that how the painting holds together is because the values are right. Okay, if you just paint thinking of color without the values, your colors can jump all over the place. But if you're thinking of value first, color second, then you have control of the color that you put down. Okay, so let's look at a painting that I did and see, just take away the color so that we just see the values and see how that affects the painting. Okay, so here's a painting that I did in gouache a while back. You can see that there's a lot of colors in there in terms of a shift from cool to warm. So you can see it's very colorful. Okay, so if we take this, right, and we take out, let's see, okay, if we desaturate it, right, we take out all the color. So there we have it in black and white. So it's just the values. But you see, it still works in black and white because the values are correct. You understand? I didn't, I paid close attention to getting the values right. So there's a structure underneath that when you see the color, even though it's very colorful, right? Let me do this, cancel this. Even though it's very colorful, it still has the structure underneath this color of values. Now, I didn't paint it in grays before. It's just the way I'm thinking about the color, knowing that each color corresponds to a value and staying within a certain amount of value, say 5 or 6, just so that I can keep it organized, with the lights and the darks, and how light or dark a color is. Now, here's another painting I did also in gouache. I haven't done that to this painting, so I don't know. Let's see if the value structure would still hold. You see how it looks in full color. Okay, so how does it look like when I take the color out? You see, it'll still hold together, because the values are working in terms of the light and the dark, and they're not jumping all over the place, so that's why the color here works. And I can switch to let me see if I could, like you see here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, like this guy over here all the way on the left, right? The guy with, well, there's two guys with the beard. The guy right behind the woman with the beard, that would be me. Okay, but you see there are blues in the eyes and blues on the cheek, and so there, and then there's the side of the forehead here. There's red, so it's warm, it's cool. It keeps jumping between warm and cool, but the lights and the darks are consistent. The values are consistent. This blue is consistent with the value here, even though you can see the difference between the two colors. Okay, so color would be first. You think about the value. Secondly, you think about the temperature of the color. Is it warm or is it cool? Okay, so basically, for this episode of Gouache 101, I didn't do a demonstration, but aside from mixing the values, what I did do was this. What I wanted to do was to discuss the importance of values and how you look at a color and you think about before you think about what color it is. Warm or cool color, you think about the value of that color. Okay, so that is something that's going to come up again and again when in regards to painting, and especially like I would do a lot of portrait painting because it becomes very important. And it's important with painting across the board, but having control of your values and understanding that will give your picture the structure it needs, the organization it needs to make sense. Okay, so that's it for this week's Gouache 101. We will be back again. I'm sorry again. I know that I need to put these up every Thursday, and I definitely will, and I'll get back to that. But I definitely will have one of these every week. Okay? So until next week, I will see you guys then. All right. Bye-bye.